especially with this kind of regime, if they don't reach to you, they reach to people that you love. So I decided to leave the country. And here comes the dilemma, because it's not easy, because as a Palestinian refugee, we don't have documents.
Hello, my name is Dasha Kalinovska, and this is my interview show Bunkeren. And today my guest is Osama Shahin, journalist and the person who was born in Syria as a refugee from Palestine, right?
Yes.
As I know, you changed 3 times countries.
Yes.
And this is not because you wanted, you just was forced to do that.
Almost, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us how it's to be even born as refugee. It's something what I feel so much because I'm refugee also.
First, thank you for the invitation. Happy to be here. No, the place there, it was quite interesting, because the place where I grew up, it's like a refugee camp called Al Yarmouk. It's like south in Damascus, the capital of Syria. And the neighborhood has around 500,000 people, and mostly dominated by Palestinian refugees in Syria, in Damascus. So to grow up there was quite interesting, because you really feel like you are experiencing the Palestinian identity in a way. It's like in the term of Europe, as we discuss ghettos and stuff, it is a ghetto, a big ghetto of Palestinians. So we grew up there having a lot of graffiti from Palestine that remind us about Palestine, talk about Palestine, like the graffiti that we have on that wall there. We have all the walls were something like this. So growing up there, you feel actually as a majority in that neighborhood, but then the challenge is when you leave the place to out of this neighborhood. So that was actually a nice challenge for my parents, that they took us smoothly to introduce us to both communities, the Syrian and the Palestinian one. So that's why I always say I moved between 3 countries, but the biggest challenge was for us, because I grew up in that refugee camp, but then I moved when I was 17. I moved to another neighborhood in Damascus. That's why I always say I moved between 3 countries, but the biggest challenge was to move from that refugee camp to another neighborhood, and at the same time maintain my Palestinian identity in the Syrian community. And I think I managed that. I succeeded. So when I was at the university and in that new neighborhood, I was proudly Palestinian. Also at the same time, I'm happy to be Syrian as well, especially that after the revolution in 2011, that also strengthened our belonging to the Syrian identity.
That's pretty interesting. What is your favorite memory from childhood?
I'm so interested in football. I like football a lot. I like to watch it. But at the same time, I have a father that I admire so much and I loved so much, who was completely against us to like football. He just thinks it's a waste of time. One of my best memories is actually how he was all the time pushing us to know things that make just extend our horizon. So we lived there in Al Yarmouk as Palestinian refugees, where we can't travel anywhere around the world. But at the same time, I always say that my father is the person who introduced the word to a refugee stateless family. So my best memories are with him, how he was all the time pushing us to know more, to read more, to learn more about the world outside. So yeah, I connect the best memories to him.
To father. Where is your father now?
He passed away. He died in 2017 in Damascus.
So sorry. What were your future plans when you were raising there?
You in general many future plans, but at the same time it's free to dream. So you dream about many different things, but at the same time you end up doing the same thing almost in Damascus. And so I was good in school, and so I managed to have good grades that allow me to choose whatever I want at the university. I had like an idea to study psychology. I had an idea to study journalism, but then like I remember when I finished high school and I was like trying to figure out what do I want to study at the university. So I checked to study as a journalism, but then it's like worthless almost because like press freedom in Syria is really, really bad, and like media work in a completely different way than, for example, a country like Norway. And it's scored the press freedom in Syria is the worst in the Middle East by far than other countries. I was looking also for psychology, but it wasn't really very easy to work when you finish university. So I ended up studying dentistry, which is like wasn't really my dream, but it was like in a way a profession that will allow me to be independent from the system. Like Syria, it's one of the most corrupted system or best corrupted countries around the world. So when you have independent work, it means that you isolate yourself from the corruption circle that goes around. So that was, I felt like, okay, I can be free at least at my work, at my decisions, and that's why I studied.
As I know, the hospital where you were working in Damascus, right, was bombed. Tell more about that. How was that for you? And tell more us also about that time when you was working more with medicine.
The revolution in Syria started in 2011, so during the Arab Spring, which first started in Tunisia in 2010, and then it started to go to other countries, and Syria was the last in March 2011. And first, the revolution, it took the form of peaceful demonstrations. Other countries, for example, like in Tunisia or Egypt, the regime folded after a few days or a few weeks after the mass demonstrations. Something similar to what happened also in Ukraine when the revolution that started there. But after that, the regime start to completely like oppress all the the revolution, the demonstrations, torturing, arresting people. And then some neighborhoods didn't obey to the system in general, so it was considered out of order, let's say. A neighborhood that is out of order, that means like the majority or big percentage of the people in this neighborhood are known for the regime to be against the regime or against the system. So I was working in my neighborhood where I grew up, the Palestinian refugee camp, Al Yarmouk, and it was called Al Basel. Which ironically enough, Al Basel is the name of the president's brother, which everything in the country is named after the family. Because they just control everything in the country. So I worked in there, and then in December 2012, it was bombed because two things were very important for regime not to happen: that you film the revolution, you film the demonstration, and the other thing is to treat people, to give help, medical help to people who are against the regime. So regime doesn't allow this, because these people who are against the regime, nobody should treat them, or nobody should dare to treat them. So that's why it was like very difficult period, and before that we expected that this hospital itself will be bombed, because it was like 1.5 years of complete bombing around, but then came the bombing to the hospital itself. That was in December 2012. I was lucky enough not to be at the hospital at that time. I left it actually 20-25 minutes before it was bombed. Many people lost their life either in the street next to the hospital, in the hospital, or it was also a mosque where people were internal refugees were living there. So also there many people lost their lives.
Super sad. And the people with who you were working, right? Also, some of them were in that.
Yeah, and especially like the people, especially who were in the street, so because it's an open air. So those people who are like many of them, they are still like, they gone missing, like nobody knows what happened to them. So of course it was one of the most tragic things that we experienced. And after that it was the most of the refugee camp, the people in the refugee camp, which is 500,000, most of them left because they knew the place will be bombed many times after. So there is a very famous photo from that refugee camp where you see a big crowd of people that are leaving the area, and that was after this bombing, and it was later inhabited by not more than 10,000 people, and even less and less at the time after.
Wow. How it felt like? What was in your mind in that moment when you got this information about the hospital?
It was. I wouldn't say I was shocked. Like I wasn't shocked because we expected something like this to happen. But at the same time, even like these kind of things, even if you are very prepared to it, but when it happens, you are shocked and you feel like you are shocked. So it was very tough to hear it at the first place, and then you start checking with the people around who's alive, who's not, what happened, how big is the damage, and so the day after, instead of just like thinking and grieving a lot, so I thought, me and few others, like maybe we can just actually go there again and start maybe to work it out, figure it out, maybe how it can function again, the hospital. But the damage, it was way bigger than what we expected. So when I went to the street there, it was almost like the door, everything around is almost like everything is destroyed. So it was very difficult to work out anything out of that. And so it was funny enough that people are leaving, but some people are trying actually to come in and build a new life there. And this is how things were, like after every war, like people would try to figure things out and make the wheel goes again.
You know, you said me that for you it was like something like what you expected. And this is such sad that nowadays in the world there are terrible things like that, which for us is just normal, like because we're used to that. It's pretty sad.
It's very difficult, especially like I feel it like especially now with social media, how we normalize these kind of things even more than before. Because probably before, of course, you have like a picture and a video from things that are happening around, but now with social media, you just like scroll down, you see someone is dead in Ukraine or Palestine, but you just scroll down more and you see something funny, music, and then you scroll down as people are dancing, and then scroll down, there is a child who's dead. So I don't know, like especially like the last 2-3 years has been like very intense on social media especially.
Yeah, that's true. And this is our usual life now. What was your next steps after hospital was bombed? You lost your work.
Yeah, but it wasn't only about work. It was about that now because as I said, like it was forbidden to people to treat people who are against the regime. So it was like the regime was following the doctors who were working. So it's an experience. I wouldn't talk a lot about it, but I was arrested after I was released. So I decided that I have to leave. And it's also, especially with this kind of regime, if they don't reach to you, they reach to people that you love. So I decided to leave the country. And here comes the dilemma, because it's not easy, because as a Palestinian refugee, we don't have documents. We have something called travel document, because we are not Syrian citizens. So we have something called travel document, which I always say that I don't know why they call it travel document, where you can travel anywhere with it. They should call it non-travel document. And so then I can't leave the country legally. And even to neighboring countries, I can't. So that's why I was trying to figure out things, and then I reached to like a cultural center. It's like it belongs to the Russian embassy, and then they told me like there you can like get a visa. So because even if I have travel document, only travel document, not a passport, but there is corruption in Russia. and that things allowed me actually to buy the visa.
So corruption helps you.
Yeah, the corruption that I all the time hated, now
Yeah.
it helped me actually.
Wow.
So in December 2013, I managed to get the visa. I was very scared on the borders in Syria, what would happen. And although you try to fix things in advance and to leave the country safely, but you never know. And but then I managed to, and I left the country in December 2013, and I arrived to Russia. And all of this happened in a matter of 6 or 7 days, a week. That I left the country. I didn't manage even to say goodbye to my friends or like relatives or. And
So it's like you had to make decisions super fast in
yeah,
that moment.
and this visa like includes like I can also I paid for a Russian language course, and suddenly I found myself in a city called Nizhny Novgorod. It's like 400 kilometers south for Moscow. So I arrived there, and it was Russia. It was minus 15 degrees.
There is super cold.
Yeah, it was very cold, and it was a lot of snow. And I was sitting in this, as we call it in Norwegian, studentbolig, like auditorium, student auditorium. And then, so...
Общежитие.
Общежитие, yes. And then I lived there. I was shocked, like, what happened now? Suddenly I'm out from Syria, I'm in Russia in minus 15. And I was like, you know what? The only way to do it is to study this language and figure things out. So I started to invest really in the language. So I started the language course, I remember, in January. And in May, the university, I was quite freak with the Russian language. I really studied a lot. And in May, the university nominated me to a language competition. And it's for all foreign students in Russia. And there I managed to get the 3rd place in this language competition. Yeah, actually I'm quite proud of it. It's really wow, because also some students were like from Georgia or ex-Soviet Union countries where people actually speak Russian fluently, but I was better than them in grammar, because for them it was like they just speak it, but they don't know why the sentence is built up like this. But I invested so much time trying to understand the grammar, the Russian grammar, the badiji, and all of this. And because of this, I got the scholarship in Moscow. So, and I moved to Moscow, where I lived for 1 year.
How was for you to live with Russian society?
People are very interested about the Russian society. I have very good friends from Russia, but of course, like for me to be a friend with a Russian person, they should be against the idea of Russian imperialism. So, for example, when my Russian friends, they were the first to be against what was happening in Crimea. They were against what Russia is doing in Syria, because for me it matters a lot that the person that I'm having fun with or I'm having a beer with is against what Russia is doing in my country in Syria. Like for me, the close friends, they are still close friends until now, and they are friends for life for me. And I keep communicating with them. I keep talking to them, especially after now the war in Ukraine, and I know a lot from them about what is really happening internally in Russia. Of course, they are one of those who are against the regime and what Russia is doing in Ukraine with the full-scale invasion. And the country in general is quite tough, especially for immigrants. I think like the way they built the education system is that we get as much possible money from immigrant students to give free education to Russian students. Yeah. So I remember many people, when they finish the language course, they are actually not good enough to study at the university, but they just go, they study first year, second year, third year. The education there is good, but actually they will let you pass no matter how do you do at the exam. So it depends on you in Russia, the education system. If you want really to study, you will find very good education. If you really just want to pass and get a certificate at the end, also you can do it that way.
You have two options.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, Moscow as a city is beautiful, the city center of it. When you go out from the city center is a very Sovietic city, very gray. And in general, also there are some areas. I remember when we arrived in Nizhny Novgorod, and then after in Moscow, they told us like there are some neighborhoods, don't go there. Like people are quite, they could be physically racist against some people. I remember especially in Nizhny Novgorod, that was before the World Cup in 2018. So the area around the stadium, they told us like don't go there. The people there are very racist in the area around the stadium. Especially it was for black people, for example.
Oh yeah, that's I also heard.
Yeah, it's really bad. And Moscow, it was like, I know like many of my African friends, like they weren't really leaving the city center because it's quite tough, like out of it. And yeah, and I heard like many of the people, not many, but like few of the people that I know, they experienced actually physical racism.
Horrible.
There.
Horrible.
Yeah.
But what about Russian propaganda policy? Like when you were living there, did you feel that?
Yeah, of course. Especially in 2015 when it was the invasion to Crimea. So then most schools, universities, they have to talk or to teach us about like what is going on there and now how they are liberating Ukraine on Crimea from they started to use the word like new Nazis about Ukrainians. And apart from like the war itself with Ukraine, so you really feel, so as we here have the National Day in Norway, the 17th of May, there is the biggest day is the day they won over Nazis, Germans in 1945. So it's the 9th of May.
9th of May, yeah.
And that is a very big day in Moscow especially. And that is the real propaganda because the way they... I really like the difference between 17th of May and the 9th of May in Russia is just so massive because here it's about children, they eat ice cream, and people go very nice vifta with the flag, but there it's like they go with the tanks and they show what the military have, what kind of rockets and what kind of tanks in the middle of Moscow. So it's like a really show for the army. So it's like really very, very big difference between how each country celebrate their national day. So for me, that day, I really associated so much with Russian propaganda and how it's so much about the military. You don't ask so much about what the military and how much they are investing in this military. And I know so many friends who were working as journalists, but they were working with international media, not with Russian media. And to be there on the 9th of May, where Putin in the Red Square. So you have to apply for permission 10 months or 11 months before the 9th of May. So you have to apply for permission in June, the year before, for your media to come in the Red Square and maybe, like as a journalist, to be in the Red Square when Putin is there, and most of them, they get rejection. So it's very, very few media who is allowed to be there in Moscow when Putin is there in the Red Square. So it's like, when you think about, like, for example, here in Norway and like
it's
stuff
totally
is very, very different. And I know like Norway is very different also from other countries in Europe. Like it's different than France and Germany and other countries. But to compare it with Russia, like the difference
it's
is
huge difference. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But after Russia, as I know, with you happened Norway. Third time, you moved to another place.
Yeah.
Tell more about this.
So like after I finished my first year at the university and like in my scholarship in Moscow, I had 1 year left. And at that time, that was September 2015, and Russia started to be like really included in Syria. So they start to send the army to Syria, and so it was also a bit difficult to get the visa for the second year. And then I knew that 1 year left in my Russian life. After 1 year, I have to figure out where to go. Again, as a stateless, as I have this travel document, I can't go anywhere. So I was trying to figure out things, other countries, nobody. I can't even apply for a visa because I don't have that, like, necessarily documents. So Russia, I heard from some friends, and also we read it in the newspaper, that Russia is opening the borders to Norway. We read it in the newspaper that Russia opened the borders to Norway. But what is funny about it, so the borders between Russia and Norway are the borders between Russia and NATO country. What is funny about it, that refugees to cross from Russia to Norway, of course, cars, they can't take them because they don't have visas to Norway. And if you walk yourself, so it's considered as invasion. That's why people came up with the idea that they can bike. So they can go with their bikes from Russia to Norway.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah. So then we found out who is the guy who is doing this thing in a city called Murmansk. It's north of Russia, northwest. And so me and some friends, we took the flight to Murmansk, and then we met this guy. So he took us, it was a Sunday, so he took us to a store where we bought the bikes there. Bikes usually in Russia are $100 or less than $100. That bike was for $250. So they already were aiming high because they know that it's the only place where to find a bike in Murmansk. And then we took the bikes, and then he told us that he will drive us to the second borders. So the borders between Russia and Norway is 3 checkpoints. On the third one, when you stamp your passport or your documents, then you are 200 meters away from Norway. So the idea is that the taxi driver is allowed to take us to the second checkpoint, and then he will leave us because we don't have visas. And the borders between the distance between the second checkpoint and the third one is 15 kilometers. And these 15 kilometers, you have to bike them. So you have to go on the bike. And at that time, we didn't know actually, is it really going to work? Does Russia really want us to leave the country? Because if Russia doesn't want us to leave the country, it's a really big problem. But we have to take the risk. So then we took the bikes, and then we arrived to the second checkpoint, and we said ha de bra to the guy who drove us there. And then on the second checkpoint, the Russian army told us, we know that you have to bike now for 15 kilometers, but if you pay, each of you, $100, then we will drive you to the third checkpoint.
Russians even here want money.
And then they drove us to the third checkpoint, but they left us 200 meters before that. And the funny thing about all of this, that I don't know how to bike.
You never biked before?
No. So when I heard about, we knew about the process, how to arrive to Norway. So my friends took me to Gorky Park, the biggest park in Moscow, in the city center. And then they start, we rented a bike, and then they start teaching me how to bike. So I had really intensive course the day before I came to Norway. But the next day, of course, I'm so stressed, a lot of adrenaline in my body, and I have to bike 15 kilometers. So when he said, give me $100, I was like, take all my money. So we paid them, and then they drove us 200 meters away from the third checkpoint. And then we went to that one, they stamped, and then we biked again to Norway. And what is funny also, that I remember a guy next to me, because it was me and my friends and some other people also are coming as refugees. He told me, have you ever biked in your life? I was like, no, this is my first time. So then when we arrived, the Norwegian police were we were prepared to tell them that we want to seek asylum or something. And they were like, yeah, we know, just put the bikes here. Of course, you're not coming as a tourist here with a bike because you love to bike, Yeah, so that was the first day in Norway. September 2015.
And how it's to start a new life third time?
Strangely enough, that's the beginning in Norway. This was harder than the beginning in Russia. Because in Russia, I arrived, I have a student visa, and then I have a student visa, so then I was like, okay, I can just invest in the language and stuff. But then when I arrived to Norway, so then I have to apply for asylum, and then I have to wait for my documents to come, so then I can start my life. So in the meantime, you just have to wait in the asylum motak, in the refugee center, and you can't do anything. I mean, you can figure out things that you be active here or there, but you don't have rights to do anything, to study the language or to work. So it was 1.5 years of like just waiting in a limbo until I got my documents. So that was quite tough. I was in the north, in Buda. People are very nice. Like in the north of Norway, they are really nice. Not because my wife from the north, but also because people from the north are nice. But then when I got the documents, it's just like completely different life. It's just like a new Norway in a way, because you have rights, you have residency, you can study the language, you can work, you can do everything. So then life became way easier than the first 1.5 year. And what is really nice about Norway also, I mean, the language is not as difficult as the Russian one. It was difficult later, I will tell you. But what is really nice about Norway that everything is very systematic. Like, it's very easy to navigate the community and the country. Because, for example, a country like Syria or Russia, you really have to figure out things in a very different way. But in Norway, everything is just so systematic. It's like this, and it works only like this, and you have statistics about everything. And so, and at that type, that helped a lot in Norway, in my life. But the challenge was like when I finished studying Norwegian language, so when I got this B2 level in Buda, and then I decided to move to Bergen. And I came here and I just started hearing people, and I was like, what language do they speak here? Because the dialect is so difficult. I mean, you came only to Bergen, right?
Yes, right. So I started from the beginning to learn Bergen.
Yeah. If you move now to another city, you will just hear, what is that? The dialects are very different.
I think this is hard part of to learn Norwegian.
Yeah.
This is dialect.
So when it comes to grammar, Norwegian language is very easy. It's really easy. But when it comes to dialects, oh my God, it's so difficult. So when I moved to Bergen, it was very difficult to understand the people. And then at the university, they were writing in Nynorsk. I studied bokmål in the north.
But I thought honestly that everywhere is bokmål. It's like if you study.
No, but at the university here, like most of the teachers, they were like teaching in or like writing everything in Nynorsk. So that was quite challenging. But from that, it was like everything went smoothly after I got the documents, not before that.
But how was to? It's crazy. As I know, we were talking with you before, and you said that you learned Norwegian in 8 months, right? Was that always for you such easy to learn new languages, or maybe you just interested so much in it? Because for someone it can be much harder.
Yeah. It's like many ways to learn a language. One of them is many people, especially that was in Russia. So I knew many guys that they speak Russian so fast, but at the same time they don't know the grammar. They are really bad in grammar. But I'm a bit lucky that my father is a teacher in mathematics. And there is a study said, and we are very good in mathematics, me and my brothers and my sister. There is a study said when you are very good in math, so then you will be good in languages. Because you will work systematically in your brain. So that's why also grammar was easier, because maybe you could just set the things, organize them in your brain grammatically correct.
Yeah, good point.
And that's why I was very good sometimes in grammar, but I still felt like my tongue is still like have like anesthesia, like I can't speak. But because I so much focus on grammar, I have to speak grammatically correct. And that's why it took me a bit time, like few months to speak Russian, and the same also with Norwegian. But then at the end I managed it, but when I speak, I speak it correctly. But other guys that were like speaking Russian But at the same time, when you actually try to hear it, it's many mistakes, like when they are speaking. So that is one of the things that I think it helped me so much in learning a language, especially when you learn it so much systematically and you focus on grammar, so you can actually develop yourself more in the future. While if you just learn it by speaking, you will reach a limit you can't reach after. And also the other part is that in general I'm a very curious person, and I know that in Norway actually I could survive in English, but I like to hear, like to understand the noise around. Like I like to understand what people are talking about in Biban, or what people are talking about in the bus, or what media is talking about. So this thing, I just feel like I really want, like this country, most likely I will invest or live all my life in. So I really want to understand everything that's happening around.
Yeah, I understand it totally, because I feel like at the beginning when I just came to Norway, I understood that Norwegians speak very nice English, and it's not a big problem for me to explain what I want and etc. But then I realized if I want to become a part of this country, to understand like culture, mindset, like and etc. Norwegian I need it. So it's good point. That's true. You then you feel part of this society.
Yeah, of course, in a very different way.
Because it's like when you even spend time with Norwegians and you speak English and they speak English with you, and of course they're gonna speak Norwegian with each other, right? You feel like, I don't understand.
And even when you speak English and then they are very happy to speak English to you, but then when you are out with them on a Friday or Saturday, and then after 2 beers, they forgot about that. Actually, you don't speak Norwegian. So then they just start speaking Norwegian
That's
themselves.
happened with me
and then
too.
They look at you and like, oh, yeah, we forgot about you. But yeah.
That's true. I also would like to talk about your journey in medicine, right? Because you were working in this industry when you were living in Syria, right? Then in Russia, you were studying also something about that, right? And when you came to Norway, how it happened that you became journalist?
So I moved to Bergen after I studied the language. I applied to Helsedirektoratet. So there is to get your certificate, like the authorization. So you have to get certificate from something called Nukkot that recognize what you studied at the university. And then for a medical people, also you have to get authorization from Helsedirektoratet in addition. So the Nukkot gave me all the points that I studied in Syria and Russia. But then after I got a rejection from Helsedirektoratet to work as a dentist. So that means that with the points that I have from Nukkot, I can study any master and in Norway theoretically, but not a practical dentistry. And I was like, yeah, okay, what should I do to work as a dentist? They told me that, well, you have to study dentistry, and even before that, you have to take chemistry 1 and chemistry 2 at the high school. And then you have to apply to university when you finish them. And because you studied dentistry for many years, then you can start from the second year. And I was actually crazy enough to start this process. So I went to high school, and then I started studying chemistry 1 and chemistry 2. And then I was sitting at the videregående skole with the students who are like 17, and I was like 27 at that time. And it's something I studied 10 years ago. Now I'm just studying again. And then I came after the first week, and I remember I told my friend, this is too crazy. I'm done with dentistry. I don't want to do it. Because it's such a long journey, and I like life is too short to study dentistry twice. I wouldn't do it. So I decided to do something completely different. So I took some subjects in gender studies, and I did my master in social work. And which I wrote my master, it's almost like gender studies as well, like about masculinity. And at that time when I was studying this bachelor and this master, I had no idea what I will work in the future. I was like, okay, I'll just take a new education and let's see after. So during my master, I start this magazine, Dar. It's like an Arabic Norwegian magazine, because I'm interested in journalism in general, and I started it like to have like more discussions in Arabic about like what's going on in Norwegian media in general. And because of it, a friend of mine, she told me there is a position in Bergens Tidende if you want to apply. It's like to develop more about, or to focus more in the newspaper about diversity. And I was like, no, I will not apply. It's been only 3 years ago that I started learning Norwegian, so it will be really tough. And she told me, just try it. And I applied and I got the position. It was quite tough rounds with interviews. And then when I came in there, so I was like writing, but at the same time I have some mistakes, and especially when you write an article in a newspaper, so then it's like you have to be fast and stuff, but they took the procedure slowly and easy with me in the beginning. And I had a mentor who really helped me with the language, and he helped me with it like a bit more systematically, that he sees the mistakes that I was doing the most when I'm writing, and he was fixing it. And of course for them also it was like 2 tasks. First, like to develop my language, my writing, and the second one is actually to teach me how to write an article, a journalistic article, because it's different than writing any other things. And so it's like part of the thing is like I did a good job, but it's like kudos to them, like they really like they invested a lot, and that's why it worked out very well now.
And what you do exactly in as journalist, like in the media where you work?
So I work in culture, and mostly it's like I focus on minorities in Bergen. So I write like articles, topics that are relevant to minorities. And some people say like, is it only like you write about minorities? Of course, I don't write only about minorities. I have the right to write about other things. But I myself, I'm interested in minorities. And here in Bergen, we have 300,000 people. Actually, 60,000 of them are people with migrant background. Wow. So it's 20%. Is the second population of migrants in a big city in Norway after Oslo. So it's like when you write about the minorities, then actually it's not a little bit, it's a lot. It's many different topics, it's many different cultures or ways of life, and it's quite interesting. And how people also figure out their life and their projects. It's like many things to write about. And of course, I'm also interested in gender minorities. So I write. Usually I cover the pride, for example. I am interested in the queer culture as well. So these are the main topics that I do. And of course, when in culture, sometimes some interesting writers who come to Bergen that we interview them. So it's like many different things. Like it's a bit difficult to define it in one topic.
2022, the beginning of big war between Russia and Ukraine. Was that expectable for you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, when I was talking to my Russian friends, they told me like we have a big propaganda about it. Like they smell it in a way. They smelled it. And I didn't have many, like I had some Ukrainian friends, but I didn't have many Ukrainian friends at that time. But the people who I was talking to, they weren't really sure that something is going to happen. And I remember some of the people I know, or I was talking to, people put me in communication with. I remember a lady that was going to do her manicure, and I told her like maybe there is a war tomorrow that's happening, and she told me it's very important then to welcome the war with the beautiful nails. Typical Ukrainian. And but then when it happened, of course, it was a shock, and we were like prepared. I remember the leader for politics in Bete. She called me in the morning and she told me like, Osama, can you come to work? Like we were prepared some days before, especially on 21st when Putin announced that he started to develop his war, but then between the 21st, nobody thought that it would be the 24th when he would start the full-scale invasion. So we were prepared that in case something would happen, but then on 24th she called me and she told me, okay, can you come back? Can you come to work early today? So I came, and then of course we start talking, try to talk to people in Ukraine, and it was tough for me personally. It was the first time like I'm covering something like this or talking to the people and writing about their war experiences, and at the same time myself, like I'm out of the picture, but at the same time I felt like I'm inside it, because first I know people in both sides, and I experienced war myself. I'm refugee myself. So it was tough, but every time when it's tough, it's very good to write about things. So, and to feel like you are doing something, contributing in a way. And of course, then it became very different when refugees start to come to Bergen, and then we start like talking to them, interviewing them. And for me, it was very important not to focus on the number methods, number articles, not only like 2,000 came, 1,000 came, but more important, like to write about their daily life, what they're doing and how they're experiencing the city, how they are thinking about the future and the past. And some we wrote some articles in the magazine that they were really focused so much on like different Ukrainian lives and what the war would mean to them, and so just to make the people understand more about it.
Yeah, I think it's super important, because it's like, of course, when you don't face it, you don't understand it.
Yeah.
And it's understandable that you will not understand these feelings.
Yeah.
But at least you will read these stories, which is such important.
Yeah, war is very difficult to understand, because when I was in Syria, like I remember in 2003, that was the first war that it wasn't a war in Syria, but then it was a war in Iraq, a neighboring country, and then refugees were coming from Iraq to Syria, and then you start think more about it. I mean, I'm Palestinian myself. There is always a war in Palestine, but then at that time it was many people who are coming to Syria as refugees. So then you start thinking about it in a bit different way, but it's a bit at the same time it's difficult to understand until I experience it myself. And that's why I really can put myself in the shoes of Ukrainian people, because I really understand what does it mean and how things happen so suddenly, and how people, even when they are prepared so much, suddenly you are not prepared to anything. Yeah,
it's impossible. But what about your trip to Ukraine? As I know, you traveled to Lviv.
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah.
To be in the country where is war,
yeah,
where people live in war.
Yeah, I mean, there is way more brave journalists who went way far in Ukraine to the east. No, the trip was about some people from Bergen who are going to deliver drones. So they had like a funding, and then they collected money, and then they bought 200 drones that they wanted to deliver to the Ukrainian army. It's an organization here that work with military aid to Ukraine, called Frit Ukraina. And then it was interesting for us because it's many people from the city itself who are like going there from Bergen. So then, and we went with this reportage tour to Ukraine. But what was interesting with it that like they went and they delivered also the pickups, the cars, together with the drones. So we drove from Bergen to Oslo, Sweden. Then we crossed to Poland, crossed all Poland, and then we went to Lviv. So that is actually the interesting part in the tour, to go with this pickup car. And I mean, they are quite powerful and strong cars, but at the same time to drive all this tour down there, it was it was quite interesting. It was very interesting also to go to Lviv, which people argue that it's a safe city, and it was until for example, when you go around, I always say it, people when there is war, they love life way more than people who don't have war. So people were just sitting in bars. You can really see they're trying to enjoy it as much as possible. But at the same time, whenever you go around in the city, you just get a reminder that there is a war here. When you see people lost their arms, lost their legs and walking in the street. That remind you about the war. But also it was quite powerful when we were leaving Lviv and then when you were leaving Ukraine. So I just like thought about how many people crossed this checkpoint during the war and what were they feeling when they left their country. So for me, that was actually the most like emotional moment in a way. And especially like we were standing with the AU passports, AU and Schengen, but then other Ukrainians, they were standing in a different line. So, and I was looking at them and we are coming back home to Norway, while maybe they are leaving their country for the last time and they don't know when they will visit it back. So that was actually the most emotional part of the trip.
And about leaving home.
Yeah, of course.
This is something what is understandable for me and you, because you left your home many years ago, Syria, right? And the same for me, because I don't have right as Ukrainian refugee in Norway to visit my home in Ukraine, and this is pretty hard. Share how it's for you, like when you don't have opportunity to visit your home.
It's very difficult. The best country to travel to or to start a new life after a war and to be a refugee in is Norway. I see it like that. But at the same time, whenever you think about home and I think, for example, when I think, for example, that I would love to show my wife where I studied and the streets where I was like going and having fun in Damascus, and I miss Damascus itself. It's a very beautiful city, although it has very bad regime and that control it. So I miss it a lot sometimes, and I miss my time there. And the most I miss is like to show the people that my new friends or my wife, and now I'm waiting for a child. Maybe in the future, my child, I want to show the child where I grew up. So this is the most difficult part about it. And so yeah, and of course, like I lost some people there, and it's very difficult to lose people when you are away from your home country, and then you at least want to be in their funerals, but you couldn't manage to. So these parts are really very big reminder about exile and how is it to live out. Yeah, but now like many things are happening in Syria actually the last week, and the regime is so much like weaker. The opposition is winning a lot of cities. The Middle East, you could never expect things in the Middle East. Like 2 weeks ago, I would tell you that I think I will never visit Damascus. Now, after what happened the last week, I could visit Damascus maybe next year. I don't know. But things are happening so fast now in the Middle East, especially like the last 2 weeks in Damascus. They've been really tough war. But like the opposition is managing to take many cities from the regime, which like maybe it will collapse soon, hopefully. Yeah, so maybe it will be a chance to visit home in the near future. I don't know.
It's 20th of May 2025. It's almost 6 months since we recorded the interview, me and Dasha. Many things has happened in Syria, as the world witnessed, during the last 6 months. During the interview, I was talking about how the opposition groups are taking over Aleppo in the north. 8th of December, the regime folded in Syria after 53 years in control. It's a historical moment for all Syrians and for all the world when a dictator like this falls. It's been the most emotional political moment in my life. It's been enormous and very tragic, and it's mixed feeling between happiness and sadness for what happened, happiness that the regime finally fall, the dictator left. Unfortunately, he wasn't caught. He is in exile now in Moscow or in Russia. We don't know where exactly. During the interview, I was talking that it's been 12 years since I visited Syria last. So actually now, after 10 days, I'm going to Syria. I'm visiting Syria on the 1st of June. So I'm very, very excited for this visit. I don't know how to describe the feelings. It's very difficult. It's a mix of like intensity and missing places that I grew up in, and the places that, and at the same time I'm very scared to see the places that I grew up in and now they are destroyed. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, 6 months, very, very long time in a country like Syria.
But it's constant, this feelings of hopeness in you, right? That it's gonna be one day when you will be able.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's impossible to live without hope.
Yeah.
So I really hope like one day I will visit it back, but I don't want to visit it when it's not like liberated from the regime that I left the country because of it. No matter how I will even if I know that I will be safe there. But as long as the regime is there, like I will never visit it. But hopefully I will visit it one day when it's like really liberated.
Yeah, I hope so much. And I understand everything what you said, because even, for example, now I have a fiance, and I really would love to go and show where I was growing, my father, another part of the family, because that place for me is really home. Of course, I will be able as adult to build home where I want, but that something special, and that is place which like built me.
Yeah.
So I hope so much that one day we will have opportunity to go to and visit our homes.
Yeah.
It's really
and I miss home, especially in a day like this when it's very windy and rainy. And I remember that it was good weather in Damascus.
Yes, that's true. I all the time sit and think, oh my God, and in my home I could see sun. Okay, you said something about your wife. I really would like to talk about that, because you met your soulmate exactly in Norway.
Yeah, in Buda.
In Buda. Tell us more about that. Who is this amazing woman?
She is a psychologist. She works in Bergen now, in homeland, in the hospital. And we met in Buda, and we were friends for 2 years before. As I said, like when I finished Norwegian, so I wanted to move to a bigger city, and I wanted to move to Oslo, as like everyone else when they live in the north. And then she told me, like, she got a job at that time in Bergen, and then she told me maybe you can give it a try to visit Bergen and see it, and maybe you can. I had to do like an English exam before the university. So I was like, yeah, okay, I can just do the exam here in Bergen then. And I visited Bergen. It was Runa here, my future wife. And then it was 30 degrees. It was sunny. It was June 2018. It wasn't
not
like
typical
this.
for Bergen.
So I felt in love with both Runa and the city, and I was like, yeah, okay, now I'm moving here. Like Oslo is not like this at all. And then when I moved here, so it's not easy when you are friends and then suddenly you are together in a relationship, but we figured it out and it worked out very well. We had very nice wedding in Bergen here in 2022. We managed really to have both Arabic, Norwegian wedding. I mean, it's one of those, like, it's a small wedding in my eyes. It was only 150 guests.
Because you used to have a lot of people, right?
But for her, it was like, oh my God, this is very big wedding. Or for my the Norwegian guests who were there, they were like, no, this is very big wedding.
Yeah, Norwegians more used to have like cozy.
Yeah, but for me, 150 is like a family dinner, like, you know. No, not like that, but like, yeah, it was like not the biggest wedding I've been to. So yeah, it's very. Now we're waiting our first child. coming next month, or maybe this month. We don't know. Maybe it will be a Christmas child.
Christmas child. It's like Christmas present.
Yeah. No, we're really looking forward. It will be really nice. It's very mixed feelings now, and to be parent, and how would it be? And no, it's like really new word, and actually it's a new way to love the word, and a new way to even watch the news. Like when you watch the news and then you read these numbers, for example, about pregnant women and children and stuff. Usually when you don't, or like you don't have a child, or when you are not like, you don't think about having children, so it's maybe different way of looking at this news or hear it. But now during this time, every time I'm hearing, for example, in Gaza, that pregnant women, like for example, there is 50,000 pregnant women in Gaza. So I just think about my wife, my child, and I just think about all these problems and how would it be to be there. And so yeah, it's like a very different way to see things through it. So no, we will see. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, so it will be also funny at home that my wife speak North Norwegian. My child probably they speak Bergen dialect. So it will be quite interesting at home.
Do you plan also to teach your child maybe Arabic?
Yeah. I will speak to the child only in Arabic. We have a plan. I will speak to the child in Arabic, Runa Norwegian, so then the child will grow up bilingual. I mean, this is really a privilege to grow up in a bilingual family. So it will be really nice for the child to learn it. And the challenging part about Arabic, it will be like writing. It's difficult to write. But I think we'll find out about it. We will manage it.
Yeah, it's a very good question, because it's a very big issue in the way that you can talk with a child, right? But grammatic stuff, it's also important to learn.
Yeah, I think it's also something that it's a big responsibility on me to do this. I mean, I understand why some parents maybe don't have the time to something. So it's very important maybe to prioritize some time for that. And because in 15, 20 years, the child would look back and they will be like, oh my God, I'm so happy that my father taught me this language. And
I remember so good when my parents all the time like pressed me, Dasha, go and learn English. You will need it. And then I knew I'm gonna like need it. Maybe it's gonna open like new doors in the world for me. But what's happened, for example, in 2022 when we just moved and I didn't plan even that, how English really helped me.
Yeah, of course.
So
with the
I
friendship, with everything.
Language is important. And my last question, I ask all my guests, what in your opinion is meaning of the life?
I think for me to be free was really a challenge that I always felt like I have to fight for. So that's why also when the revolution started in Syria, I was like really demonstrating, I was really hoping to be free, politically, religiously, in the community. So, I mean, the meaning of life, to be free, I think is the most important meaning of life as I see it. And I think this is the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about.
And I think not everyone will understand it, because someone is just born in a country where you already have this freedom, right? But in some of the countries, it's for what you have to fight. And you said today something about, like you said a lot about your father. And in my life, father also has a super big role. And he always taught me, Dasha, you always have to be free. I even made a tattoo with the word freedom. And this is what my country do now. So it's really privilege to be free, I think.
Yeah, of course.
And it's important.
And even in a free country like Norway, it's very important to maintain it. Because sometimes even like norms, social norms and everything will make you feel like, oh my God, no, I'm not being really free and everything I'm doing. But it's really important to, especially in things that you mean it and you want to talk about it, it's really important to be free in everything.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't have any more questions. I'm super grateful you for this interview.
Thank you for the invitation.
You shared with me super like vulnerable parts of your life. Super important moments in your life which changed, and now you are here, we're here, and we
in
are
this,
happy.
Cold place.
In a cold place, that's true. We shake a little bit because it's really cold, but I'm super grateful that you got this invitation and supported me in the beginning of my podcast.
Пожалуйста. Thank you so
Спасибо.
much for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. We say bye, and we ask everyone to support, to comment it, and share this video to everyone who you know. Yeah. Thank you. Ha det.